like to now talk about the person who will be addressing you tonight, Mr. Paul Cadman. Paul is on the pulse of the Midlands economy. He's recently, taken a manufacturing company. Is it 50 million in 4 years? 50 million. So he's increased the income of a company by 50 million in 4 years, which was their target for 10 years. So, Paul, I can't say any more. Thank
you. Okay, some of the points I want to discuss tonight. I came to meet the team a few weeks ago and I said, yeah, I'd be honoured to speak at the event and to come across like that. And I said, what do you want me to talk about? And they said, talk about you, talk about some of your life experiences, talk about something that you've been up to. I've never actually done that before. I'm quite a quiet, unassuming person, despite my physical appearance and my persona. I'm actually quite a private person. So I'm going to share some of the things with you today that I've never really shared with other people. Well, let's see how it works and see how it unfolds as the night goes on. What I want to talk about today is West Midlands performing, what the Midland engine is, what's Midland connection, why we're here, where we can go, parting shot and things like that. But if you move on one slide, let's talk about me first, and let's talk about some of the things that's kind of shaped me as to why the impact in the Midlands, some of the things that I do and some of the mindset that I have. So I was actually born in Borsley Green. I was actually born, if you go left out of here, there's a head which is a statue. You go two roads down, take a left, there's a house, 141 Borsley Green Road, and I was born in that house. So although I've got a nice prestigious house at the moment, that's where I came from, and that's actually where my roots come from, and I don't think I've ever lost my roots. I was born at 141 Borsley Green Road. My parents were absolutely outstanding, loving parents, but in the 80s it was a bit of a different mindset today. So when we were 5 and 6 years old, we would go wandering off for the day. We'd either have a football or something else, or there was a scrapyard that was behind our house, and that was owned by our uncle. And as 6-year-old children, that was our playground. So bearing in mind, I'm 50 years old now, there was no health and safety and things like that. We'd go wandering off, playing in the scrapyard. My uncle got the contract for the Ministry of Defence to get rid of all tanks, guns, clothing and everything like that. So as a 6-year-old child looking at a tank that was mine and my friends, so we'd be playing in all of these in the scrapyard and everything else like that. At the back of the scrapyard there's a railway line, which is the same railway line that runs along the back of this stadium. We used to go down and play on the railway lines. Now we used to go and take cardboard boxes, slide down the side of the railway line, wave at the drivers because they all knew us. It was almost reminiscent of the railway children. They'd blast or sound the horn, we'd wave, get off the track, but then go back up to the top. Actually thinking about it now, probably wasn't the smartest of things to do. And when Mum asked us where we were going to be, we're going to go and play on the railway line in the scrapyard, she'd be like, don't be late for tea. I did open up by saying my parents were loving and don't excuse them for anything else like that. What I used to do, and I'm going to let you into a secret now, and hopefully none of the security are listening, I used to sneak into the ground. The way I used to sneak into the ground during the football was, because I was that small and slight, I used to walk through the bars. I'm actually standing on this stage and I can hear the stage creaking. So at 8 years old, I was that small I could walk through the bars and come into all the games, watch the home games and things like that. Actually thinking about it, I think the security knew what we were doing, and it was the kids from down the road and things like that. And when we used to steal the cardboard boxes, or liberate them as we used to say, there was a box of biscuits that were left out for us, so actually they kind of knew what we were doing as well. But I think the mindset was, it was a different age then, it was a free and easy age, and you could spend more time doing what you're doing and things like that without fear of retribution. One of the downsides to my character and my personality was, unfortunately, I was dyslexic. So that was before dyslexia was really understood in schools and things like that. When I went to school, I allegedly failed. So in infant school, I would sit in a corner, being excluded. Junior school, I was being excluded. I had a major issue with anger And simply because being rejected, being told that I was never going to make anything of my life, that I was sick, literally being told by the school teachers that I was sick, and this is the best it's going to be, picking up litter, kind of makes you a bit of an angry person. Being a lad, I think it was about 3 fights a week. Anybody said anything, anybody challenged me, it was a, it was a quick hook and all that sort of stuff. Dad and Mum, Dad had to take time off school, had enough, and said, right, enough's enough. Mum was pulling her hair out. The pair of them nearly split up because of me. Totally, uncontrollable. Feral was the description that was used. And I think somebody used that a few weeks ago, so they might have hung around. So they took me off to learn to fight. Dad dragged me up the Balls to Green Road, across here, and across the road here, there used to be a gym, boxing gym. Sport, society, people that are failing, getting into sport, there's a bit of a common theme there. So he threw me into this gym to learn how to fight. I did okay. Ended up challenging a heavyweight champion, took me 2 years of picking myself up. Beat him, put him down. That's one tick in the box. Changes your mindset, and the mindset that I've got is I'm never, ever, ever giving, never, ever beaten. So enough of the kind of the childhood and things like that. What I did then was worked in the markets in Birmingham, so understood the hub of the market, so all of the ethnic minorities, diversities coming together and things like that. Got a real feel for Birmingham itself and what makes Birmingham great and what makes it work. That stayed with me as well. So this area, the people, great people of Birmingham. From there, I went into the fire service. I actually cheated my way into the fire service. This is between me and you, and he doesn't need to go outside of this room. There was an exam, and it was a multiple choice exam, and you had to fill in so many, you would fill in so many, you would, and that would be it, and it'd be about 20% of what was there. Being dyslexic, thinking ahead, you deliver, you start thinking of these little skill sets to get away with things, so you start thinking ahead. So if I sat there and I've got 20 to go, 80. If I tick all of those, I'm probably going to get another 25% right. Surely if I say A on all of those, I got my way into the fire service. Simply by being dyslexic, by thinking ahead, by doing that. And at this time I didn't realise I was dyslexic. It took me till I was 30, 12 months ago, to realise. Okay, all right. That one didn't work. Took me till I was 30 till I realised, and I've been in the fire service about 10 years. One of the roles that I've got is forces recruitment, and it's understanding why I'm involved with forces recruitment, why I put so much time in charity work and things like that into ex-military, understanding those. Now, I don't stand on a political forum to say that we should have the army, we shouldn't have the army, we shouldn't invade, we shouldn't do that. None of that. What I do look at is ladies and gentlemen that serve us, and they look after us, and I understand some of their mindsets. Now, if I share some of the things that happened with you in the fire service, within the first 3 months of being in the fire service, coming out onto station, I was at Erdington. The bells went down, which is a term, the alarm goes off. We turned out at 2 o'clock in the morning to a shop, and it was a family living above the shop. Now, at this point, it's quite interesting and quite relevant to realise, if you spend time in the fire service, people who die in fires, almost 99.9% of them don't know. They don't wake up. It's smoke inhalation. So quite often you'll go into a bedroom, somebody will be asleep and almost perfectly arrest and things like that. And, it's not very often that you come across a severely burnt body. It does happen, but normally the fire service is on time. This incident was in the early hours of the morning. We turned out, we went to there, and it was a shop, and above the shop the family lived, and they had a canopy. Do you remember the old canopies that you used to pull out just to get the rain off? Exactly the same that you see now. Makes it very difficult to pitch a ladder to gain access into the upstairs. The family lived above, and what they did was almost barricaded themselves in, not consciously, on the way back to bed. So they take all of the property out the front and put it into the shop. So the morning they would do exactly the same. So trying to gain access to the fire service with the flames coming through the roof of the building is critical. You want to get in there. Every window, every which way you can get in. I didn't go into the building because we were up in the inside and we couldn't get up there. But what happened was a mother with 2 children. When we got there, there was There was 2 beds, so there was twin beds. The mother was there, shielding the children, the little toddlers, with a hand out. Almost reminiscent of Pompeii. You've seen the figures in Pompeii and that sort of thing. It was like that. Now, those are the first people, the first fatalities I'd ever seen. Now, to see a mother with her 2 children as the first fatalities, you kind of build yourself up to it. You're going to see it in the fire service and all that. Now, that was quite hard work. It took me, and this is one of the omissions, probably about 12 months to every time I closed my eyes that I didn't see this family. Now, the way that we dealt with this, we used to go off and drink. We used to socialise, we used to talk to each other. We'd just get drunk and the day would go, or something like that, and you'd find some release. That, now, when you think about it, is post-traumatic stress. Whether you term it as that, whether you term it as something else, it's something that happens in your life. And I was just talking to a colleague who used to be a police officer, and we talk about the same thing. It's the same sort of mindset. What's interesting is that the fire service gives you some life skills, some interesting things that you'll never forget. And there was a guy that I met downstairs, which is Paul, he used to be in the fire service as well. And there's camaraderie and things like that. Another horrendous incident I went to was the M42. There was a car crash and a number of multiple vehicles. There was an old Princess. Anybody old enough to remember Princess cars? About a third of the room. For everybody else, they're like a wedge-shaped thing of the 80s that should never have been put on this earth, but hey, it was there. So the vehicle was surrounded both sides by lorries. There was somebody that was in the driver's seat. The head was forward. What you have to do is pull the head back, get an airway in there. Once you get an airway in there, majority of the time you're going to save that person's life. I was told to take the back windscreen out, to step in backwards, to lean myself in, to pull this person through. Because I was quick, because I was new to the game and I thought it was a good idea, the windscreen went out, I slid in forwards, pulled the person back, didn't realise that there was a board that had gone through the front and took the front of his face and the top of his head off. Another lesson to learn is when you get into a situation like that, you keep your mouth shut. I didn't. So I tasted the contents of his skull. A horrendous situation and a lesson you never forget. Keep your mouth shut. I've kept that with me, not because of that, but on occasions you keep your mouth shut when you're in situations. That was that. So the post-traumatic stress thing is why I get involved in the forces recruitment. Forces recruitment, ex-forces, people that are on the streets, people that have got nowhere to go. Not all of them have got post-traumatic stress by any means, but they are coming out of a situation where they're serving us, new environment and a little bit lost. Okay, moving forward. Okay, just anybody got any questions or any points before we start talking about what else I want to be here, which is the local economy? Anybody got any questions for me? That's pretty good. I'm either doing a good job or everybody's thinking, where's my main course? Now, my speaking point was 8:15 to 8:45. What time is it now, Linda? 9. I can smell something burning. I'm going to fly through this as quick as I can, but still with a salient point and things like that. It's important to understand what we're doing in the region, what's happening in the region, how the West Midlands, how the Midlands is performing. West Midlands is outperforming the rest of UK through performance has been, it's beginning to slow down. So if you look at the PMI index, it's Purchasing Managers Index, you talk about figures, 57 and 55. What does that mean? It actually means this region is outperforming the rest of the UK. What are our barriers? Why aren't we going to continue growing? Why is the combined authority going to work or not going to work? Why is devolution going to work and things like that? We start looking at things like some of the barriers to growth are the way that we perform as an economy. We have a domestic consumption is driving our growth and not manufacturing. So if we look at combined debt of every household, it's about £16,000. At the moment, you can get a credit card facility if you're earning about £8,000. George Osborne talked about pushing up the economy through, credit and things like that. Potentially, he was driving to every household having a combined debt of about £30,000. Not particularly good, not an acceptable position to be in. If we move on. One more. Midlands engine. Have we all heard the term the Midlands engine? It's bouncing around now. Anybody not heard the term Midlands engine? Andy, you're shaking your head. But you're from a million miles away, Andy.
That's right.
You're in Droitwich. So you still in the Midlands or not? Okay. Well, the Midlands engine, it's 11 local enterprise partnerships coming together to pull their their ambitions and the strengths and things like that. You focus on strategic hubs here to create 34 billion of economic growth by 2030. So we've embarked on a plan to grow that. The Chancellor announced the creation of £250 million Midlands Engine Investment Fund, and I'm reading the figure to get it right there. March 2016, boost the region's economy and supporting growth ambitions of 460,000 smaller businesses. That's looking at the mindset that we are now looking at investing in SMEs, small to medium enterprises. We're not looking at investing in multinationals. The region itself, the jewel in the crown for us is Jaguar Land Rover. It's a multinational business, automotive business, that's owned by an Indian company. We don't own any OEMs. We don't own any automotive manufacturers. We can run them, and we do particularly well around the world. If we move on. Okay, why are we here? If we start looking at some historical figures, UK manufacturing employment has fallen by 8.9 million to just 2.9 million. So we've gone from 8.9 million to 2.9 million over the last 50 years. I'm 50 years old now, so in my lifetime, 8.9 million to 2.9 million. We've lost 6 million jobs in manufacturing. Scary figures, absolutely scary figures. The knock-on effect to the job losses over the last few years is absolutely staggering and things like that. In 1966, the year I was born, we had 8.9 million workers in manufacturing. In 1977, it counted for 48% of manufacturing employment in the West Midlands. So 48%, almost 50% of people in the West Midlands were employed in manufacturing. Yeah? Where are we now? What's the figures? Linda, how many people are employed in manufacturing now? Have a guess.
It's less than 1 million.
Yeah, it is. Exactly right. So the figure's dropping down. The pound's dropped. Exports are good. Everybody wants to work with us. Manufacturing is good. How are we going to get out of the hole that we're in? Bearing in mind that Brexit is coming in. Saf, you told me not to mention Brexit. Under pain of death, we've got to talk about Brexit. We've got to talk about that. And we've got to look about the 50 years, what's happened, where have we gone from all of these employed people in manufacturing and everything else like that. Without sounding too political, it's Margaret Thatcher. So it's Margaret Thatcher's era has absolutely decimated the Midlands, taken away our crown, our jewel, and everything else like that. If we look at where we're going to be now, moving on, where can we go? Okay, what can we do? How do we look at things? What's ahead for us? If we start looking at some of the success stories in the region, in the country, aerospace. How many people work in aerospace? How many people are directly employed in aerospace? Any ideas? I'm going to tell you because I can smell dinner burning. 128,000 directly employed in aerospace. 140,000 indirectly employed. Annual revenue for aerospace? Anybody have a guess? You were coming up with some good figures.
Just in the Midlands?
The UK at the moment.
Oh, UK. Oh,
yeah. Aerospace, have a guess. If I told you 10 billion, what would you say?
Lighter than that.
If I told you, look at the size of it, be careful. If I said 20 billion, what would you say?
Oh, it's more than that. It's more than that.
31 billion in aerospace. That's not really the jewel in the crown, because Paul Cadman has just said the automotive is the jewel in the crown. That's it. That's interesting. 31 billion. Okay. So where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Almost a decade worth of work in hand for aerospace. 13,000 planes ordered to be created in the UK. That's worth 195 billion. That's aerospace. We don't talk in terms of aerospace, do we? We talk in terms of Jaguar Land Rover because one of us or some of us or every one of us works at Jaguar Land Rover. Automotive. How many jobs are in automotive sector then? We got 140,000 aerospace or linked to aerospace. How many? Anybody give me a shot? Linda Jahal. I love picking on you when I'm up here at a moment of power. It's interesting to say now, if Linda was up here giving this speech, we'd have explosions, we'd have tigers jumping through hoops. Wouldn't we? If you could see one of Linda's presentations, everything happens and things like that. All I get is a rickery stage is a bit rickery and all of that. All right, back to the room. I can smell dinner, I can feel people giving me pressure. 169,000 direct jobs, 78 employed across the UK supply chain, 25,000 new jobs to be created in production, connected with autonomous vehicles. That's a discussion all on its own. All of these cars driving around on their own, nobody controlling them, nobody driving them. Another discussion. Revenue, annual revenue for the automotive sector. Anybody?
500 million.
71 billion pounds. Wow. Manufacturing's on the up. We're going up. We're moving up. Okay? Right. Parting shot from me. Just for something personally to you read. That's something that I sit around and I think in my head. Before I go, before we get the main courses, anybody got any comments to make? Anybody? Any questions? Okay, if you've enjoyed the presentation, my name is Paul Cadman. If you haven't, my name is Ninda Jahal. Thank you all very much for your time. Slightly rushed, but I'm looking at the time. Thank you.